All right, everybody, welcome back to Gridiron Gang, a Detroit News Lions podcast. Today is December 24th, 2025. Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm Nolan and Bianchi. With me, as always, is Richard Silva. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about what went wrong in the Lions' loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, talk about what Rich found during his film review deep dive. We're going to preview this Thursday's game against the Minnesota Vikings and talk about some news and notes that you might have missed. Before we get to all that, I already introduced myself, but I'm Nolan. This is Rich. Rich, how are you?
I'm good. I'm in the Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. I'm in the Christmas spirit. I will say, this is the only hint that I'm giving you on the podcast.
Okay.
The blind rank at the end of the show will get us in the Christmas spirit.
Okay.
I'm leaving it there.
I'm looking forward to that. Let's talk about the Steelers game because we have had a couple of days here to kind of sit and reflect, not just on what the game was, but what it means. But I am curious, the wildest thing that occurred during that game was, well, there were a lot of wild things that occurred in terms of the game flow and maybe some officiating decisions, things like that.
Maybe some off the field things.
But the wildest thing that occurred on the field, at least in terms of what we expected going into the game, was the Steelers running the crap out of the ball, 230 yards, their most since 2016, the Lions' most allowed since 2022. And then the Lions having their fourth fewest rushing yards in the Super Bowl era, with just 15 yards, and that includes a long of 17. So we're going to talk primarily about that as we look back at this game, because that's what Rich did his film review on, both the offensive and defensive running games. What did you find?
You're exactly right. First, before I get into that, about the whole, like, another day
that ends in Y.
that the amount of, like, things that come concerning, like, stats or whatever that came out of this game was bananas. Like, that was my lead for the film review. I was like, pick your least favorite stat. I was like, the Steelers were 8 of 16 on first down. We mentioned this on third down. We mentioned this on the post-game pod, despite having an average distance to go of more than 7 yards. They only pressured Aaron Rodgers on 22.2% of his dropbacks, their third lowest rate of the season. They missed 11 tackles, which allowed for an extra 96 yards. That's a season high given up, according to Next Gen Stats. 2 of those tackles came on one of these run plays that we're going to talk about. But yeah, nothing was more jarring, though, than this team getting outrushed by 215 yards, because you can say, the run game has been up and down, hit or miss all season long. You could say that the run defense against the Rams was bad, because it was, but this was rock bottom of rock bottom. This was as worse as it can get. Like, there's not really another way to put it.
And I think, like, for the most part, they've been pretty consistent in the fact of play against a good team.
Sure, yeah.
Not be able to run the ball. Play against a team without a good rushing defense, like statistically, be able to run the ball. Like, and it wasn't just that they had success doing it in those games against the Giants, against the Buccaneers, against whatever. It was that they had, like, historic rushing days. Like Jahmyr Gibbs, 3 touchdowns, 200-something yards, from scrimmage. So I think that was the most surprising thing, is this actually, they've been predictably inconsistent, and on Sunday they were unpredictably inconsistent.
So let's start there.
The right way to put that.
Yeah, I understood what you meant. Yeah. Let's start there with the offense. 12 rushes overall, really only 11 because one of them was a kneel down at the end of half from Goff, so that doesn't count. 7 from Gibbs, 4 from Montgomery. And when Dan Campbell talked about this on Monday, he was asked, like, now that you've gone back and looked at some of what went wrong, obviously you abandoned the run in the second half. They had 1 rush in the second half, and it was the one right before the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter. But before abandoning the rush, like, what was going wrong? Why were you so unsuccessful? Of their 11 rushes, the 11 real rushes, only 3 of them were quote-unquote successful plays.
Just cleaning the screen here for people who are watching.
Yeah, you're good.
Strip in the middle that I don't know if that's my computer or what. Anyway,
it's okay. So only 3 of their 12 total, but really only 11 rushes were successful. And Dan Campbell, explaining what happened, said that it was really all-encompassing. And maybe that's like an annoying explanation, but, like, I do agree with it. Like, and it was all-encompassing from the offensive line to the receivers to the tight ends to Dan Campbell. Like, there was 4 times that I counted where the backside edge was a problem. in like an unblocked backside edge, twice where they were totally unaccounted for, and then twice more where you tried to pull a guard to go account for that guy. All 4 plays got blown up. I think 3 of them for negative gains, another one for like a short gain or negative loss, I guess, and one of them for a short gain. Go ahead.
And you said that you talked to Taylor Decker after the game, and he said that was something that the Steelers must have seen on tape was, you just get upfield.
Right. And to be fair, this Lions team didn't really have a chance to fix it because they so quickly abandoned the run.
Yeah.
I don't want to say they didn't have the chance. They could have run the ball. They chose not to run the ball because they were whatever. They only had 3 plays in the third quarter and then you get the ball back. In the fourth quarter, you're down by a couple of possessions. Regardless, that was a problem that I chalked up to scheme, to play calling, to things like that. Dan Campbell said on the radio earlier today there were a handful of plays where he felt he didn't give the guys a chance. That was that bucket for me.
Well, and one thing that's interesting, because I tweeted out that quote yesterday. He said, like, schematically, like, we were a mess. And people were, like, upset with that, which I thought was interesting because I think the biggest problem that we've had with John Morton all season is that he says scheme's never wrong. Like, it's always the players. And people did not like that he said that, which I thought was interesting.
Before I get into the particular players that I felt were at fault for a couple of the plays, to put a bow on the scheme talk, it was interesting to me that on multiple of those plays, it was Alex Highsmith, the outside linebacker, that was just unconcerned with a play action possibility. Like he did not care that Jared Goff could have kept the ball and rolled out to the other way, and he was the only backside. He was the only backside defender over there. So I looked. This was a focus on the rushing attack, and then the lack of rush defense on the other side, which we'll get to. But I looked just out of curiosity at all of the Lions' play actions, and it didn't look like they tried to take advantage of that. And again, like I'm not going to pretend to know like when or when not you should have called this play or whatever. But I don't know. It was interesting to me. I felt like that was something that could have been taken advantage of, the Steelers' uber aggressiveness and coming off the backside like that. Regardless, it seems like the Lions did not try to take advantage of that. Anyway, on to some of the players. I thought Penei Sewell had an uncharacteristically tough game, particularly and this is all run game I'm talking about. I didn't take a deep dive into the passing attack. For this purposes, I don't care about that right now. I thought Penei Sewell uncharacteristically struggled specifically against Derek Harmon. There was like 2 or 3 times where Harmon got him on the ground. Like he
rookie.
A rookie, first round rookie who has played well this season. He's been hurt for a lot of the season, but when he's played well. I thought Harmon not only handled himself well, might have messed around and won more reps than he lost in the run game against Sewell, which was jarring. Like that kind of thing is jarring.
It was his second lowest run blocking grade of his career, if I recall correctly.
That was tough. Tate Rowledge, I think, had more positive run plays than negatives than the one that I saw, but there was at least one where he loses his footing. Him and Penei both end up on the ground on one play, and it just gets totally blown up for like a gain of nothing. Kingsley Eguakin, he, I think, overall had a good game, but there was also moments that showed this is a guy making his first start. So it's funny when you watch when you're watching these plays, I think I see what I see, but again, like I can't be 100% certain because I don't know the call. But like there's one play that I'm watching and I'm like, Kingsley doesn't know the call here. Like everyone else is running a different play than what Kingsley is doing here. And I wrote that because that's what I believe to be true. And Dan Campbell on the radio, he was listing things that went wrong. And he goes, there was one play where, not everyone got the check. And I was like, aha, like that was it. Because Goff killed the play at the line of scrimmage. And then, like I said, everybody seemed to run one play. Kingsley did not block the linebacker in front of him. He looked at him and kind of looked like, I don't know what to do right now. And then Gibbs actually makes that guy miss in the backfield, but it did not. It went for 2 yards that play, but it was not for anything more than that because Giovanni Ricci, who was blocking Jack Sawyer, the other rookie on the Pittsburgh defensive front, did a poor job blocking against him, which allowed Sawyer to come kind of clean it up, despite Gibbs making the guy miss in the backfield.
And it should be noted, Jack Sawyer, it is my understanding that he was not having the best rookie season to this point because I know that when it was announced that TJ Watt was out and people I follow a lot of Pittsburgh people on Twitter, And I know that they were like freaking out about Jack Sawyer having to start in this game against this Lions offense. So when he was making plays out there, I was like, man, that's not supposed to happen.
Right. I think Ricci on that play specifically struggled against him. And there were other plays in which I thought the tight ends could have been better or were the most at fault, I guess, so to speak.
And that's tough because they don't have any tight ends.
Yeah, it is what it is. Like,
or they, I guess they do not. Like, they have Shane Zylstra back. He's the only guy who was like projected to be on this roster at any point.
Right.
But the tight end is such a complex position because you need to essentially be an offensive lineman and a wide receiver all in one. And it's tough to just kind of like go in there and like do everything. You know, like especially on short notice like that.
No, yeah, absolutely. And then there was one play that I highlighted at the end just to show again like how all encompassing it was. That last rush before the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter. It's blown up by Jalen Ramsey because Amon-Ra St. Brown can't effectively block him out on the perimeter, and then Ramsey comes in from the slot. I think tough situation for St. Brown to be in because I don't think Ramsey was at all fooled. Like he was not worried at all of St. Brown coming on a route. As soon as maybe he was blitzing, maybe that was the call. I suspect that he just figured out that the run play was coming, and St. Brown really had no chance just because of how aggressive Ramsey was. But regardless, I'm trying to paint the picture that here was a receiver missing a block. 2 plays over here, a couple tight ends made a mistake. 1 on a guac, and maybe 2 on a guac, and 1 on Ratledge, maybe 2 on Ratledge. Just things like the 4 that I said that I think were more like scheme in my opinion. And that kind of is all of the rushes at that point because you only had 11 of them. So it was really like you get hit here, you get hit here, you get hit there. And that's how you get one of the worst rushing attacks of the Super Bowl era for this Lions offense.
And especially like how predicated the passes for off of the run in this offense. It's huge. Like Jared Goff, he had pretty good counting stats at the end of the game, but like I think he had like 140 of those yards in the fourth quarter or something like that. So it really hurt them all game long. And again, the final box score makes it look not as bad on like a down-to-down basis, but it was that bad for large stretches of the game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The defense.
Let's talk about it.
So the Steelers, how I put it, were both efficient and explosive against the Lions. And so they had 7 rushes of 10 plus yards. And the problem is, so while I was doing this, I was like, oh, like, is that where the Lions just gave up most of their yards, like on those 7 plus rushes? And yes, like I think of the 230, 170 came on those 7 rushes. Wow. So of the rest of them, 60 yards on 20 carries. The problem is though, is when you play the game of, take this out, take that out. I know everyone's a little bit sensitive about that. I do think you can kind of do something. I think a perfect example is like week 1, Shepard talking about the Packers game. I do think there was a little bit of credence to the whole, like, it really was just kind of 2 plays on that one drive where the passing attack got just walloped for like 80 yards. And then that kind of skews the numbers. You can't do that when there's 7 of them. Yeah. You know what I mean? So they were efficient and explosive. They had a rushing success rate of 51.9%. That ranked 5th among all teams in week 16. That's the Steelers. There's 7 explosive rushes, and those are 10 plus yards. We're tied with the Philadelphia Eagles for the most this week. And their first rush of the game was an 11-yarder from Jaylen Warren, where it was actually, I thought, well called by the Steelers and well executed by the Steelers, where it's like whatever, like a pin and pull play, but it's a counter coming back. Rodgers in the shotgun, Warren's to his right, and Warren takes a step to his left before taking the ball and going back right. And the tight end, I think it's Pat Freiermuth, comes across behind the line of scrimmage and blocks Aiden Hutchinson. And I just think it was well called and well executed. I don't know like what else Hutch was supposed to do on a play like that. Like I guess you hope that he just like blows up Freiermuth and can be more disruptive, but I don't know. It's a tough ask. Do you have something to add? Because I'm going to jump to the 245 yarders.
I was just going to say in the biggest game of the season, the Lions defense allowed an EPA of 0.37 EPA per rush.
Bad.
Tied for the 13th highest mark in any game this season.
Yeah. Bad. Very bad. There's other stuff that I'm going to skip here because there's no reason to go through each of the 7 plays. But I mean, like there was one play, a 21-yarder from I think Warren again, if I'm not mistaken. All of these were Warren or Gainwell, obviously. Except Johnny Smith had a 20-yard rush also on an end around.
Yes. That was when I was like, man, this is bad.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if anybody knows this. That's the tight end.
Yeah.
He's kind of old.
They also ran a toss to Johnny Smith at one point. That did not go for an explosive gain, but it was an effective gain.
Johnny Smith is 30 years old.
Yeah. Agent.
Yeah. A miracle.
Yeah. But before I get to the 45-yarders, just a couple things. Like there was one play, 21-yarder from Jalen Warren that Thomas Harper misses a tackle. Marcus Davenport misses a tackle. Like I said, this team missed 11 tackles in this game per Next Gen Stats. They came into this week, I want to say, missing the second fewest tackles in the NFL. Like
they've been really good all season.
Yeah, they've been awesome at getting guys down when they have the chance to. They were not on Sunday. So, I mean, that was an issue. And then if we just talk about the 45-yarders now, the first one, I guess I'll talk what was consistent in both of them. Actually, no, I want to talk about the first one independently. Okay. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize.
So I think I'll start here that it was a really good job by Rodgers because you see him come up to the line of scrimmage, notice Avonte Maddox creeping up on a safety blitz, and he's like, all right, then. And he just checks out and calls calls it to a new play to the opposite side where Maddox is. So now the Lions are down a potential run filler in that side of the field, and that's the strong side of the field where you have all your tight ends lined up. So now the Lions are kind of like outnumbered on that side. So it was just a good play by Rodgers to get to that. And then if you want to talk about, I guess, players that did not execute on that play, Derek Barnes and Alex Anzalone kind of got blown off the ball. They're going up against like offensive linemen in some cases. So part of me is like, do you expect that? Like Alex Anzalone kind of trying to come up and fill a gap, but like he's getting crushed by an offensive lineman. Tyleik Williams kind of got moved a little bit on this play, and I think that's why the gap was so large. On the left side, Barnes and Anzalone just got tossed out of the way, and on the right side, Tyleik got sealed basically, and it was an enormous gap that like three players could have run through. Jack Campbell does his best to like scoot around an offensive lineman and do an ankle tackle. He can't. It felt like Thomas Harper crashed down a little bit harder, and almost like it felt like took for granted that the tackle was going to be made. Like, you know what I mean? And then by the time he realized that it wasn't, he was like, oh, shoot. And like now he's level with Warren, and Warren's momentum is already going that way. So I think that was the first one. And then the second one, similar-ish play, but not the same play. To me, where this broke down was Rock Ya-Sin is so concerned about defending DK Metcalf on a potential route. He doesn't DK like runs like a slant, so to speak, but it's a run play. So he's just running to try to occupy Ya-Sin. Ya-Sin is so concerned with Rock that he just follows him the whole time, like without even thinking that it could be a run play, runs himself out of it. And then Thomas Harper came down trying to fill, and basically neither of them had outside leverage. Neither of them held contain. I can't say definitively who had that responsibility on the play. Neither of them did. It allowed basically DK to block 2 for 1, to block both of them. And then Warren's off to the races for a second 45-yarder. So again, kind of similar to the offense, just like a lot of breakdowns at different levels. What I will say is the defensive line was not like as much at fault as I thought it would be. Like there was issues, but on the interior specifically, like the Lions didn't really get going between the tackles. It was all edge stuff. And when you play so much 13 personnel, the whole 3 tight ends thing like the Steelers do, I saw DJ Reader talking to 97.1's Will Birchfield about this, that when you put those extra tight ends on the field, you create more gaps, right? Like, and you attach them to the offensive line. Now you have an A, B, a C, and then gaps after that. Yeah. And that requires players that aren't used to playing in gaps like that, like linebackers and safeties and corners, to come up and play those gaps. And it's difficult. But you have to do it. The Rams bludgeoned the Lions doing that last week, and the Steelers have bludgeoned the Lions this week doing it. I would imagine some other teams, if they have the tight end personnel to do it, will attack the Lions this way.
And the whole 13 personnel thing, again, one running back, 3 tight ends. It's really interesting because I would have thought that seeing it against the Rams, getting beat by it against the Rams, thinking honestly, like you have the personnel to match against 13 personnel.
Because they have 3 linebackers that they believe in.
And to you would think that coming off of that Rams game, like they would be better off for that, but really all it did was like I think probably open Pittsburgh's eyes to like the opportunities that
Pittsburgh
would be
did
available.
it a lot. To be clear, like before, I think they were the second most.
They were,
yeah, 13 personnel team in the league, so they did it. But absolutely, like I mean, Dan Campbell said it like in the before the Steelers game. He said, "I know what the tape shows against the Rams, and that's them getting beat by this, and I know what the Steelers are watching."
Yeah,
well. Evidently, they did.
Yeah, absolutely. The Lions defense now, let me see if I can pull up the stat real quick. Over its last 5 games, averaging, oh man, I talk for a second.
to end the point I was making, I don't think the interior of the defensive line, and I say this with the caveat of, I know I just highlighted Tyreek Williams on at least one of, and I think both of the 45-yarders, he kind of got displaced. I don't think the interior defensive line was really the culprit. I think it was the edge and then the second and third level defenders filling the gaps.
Well, and they crushed them on those end arounds too. Like they crushed them in a variety of ways with the quote unquote running game, but a lot of it was
for sure
some exotic stuff in there. So the Lions defense now over its last 5 games, averaging 458.6 yards per game. For context, the Cincinnati Bengals have allowed the most yards per game this season at 402.8. So more than 57 yards more over their last 5 games than the league's worst defense. It's really bad.
And I think what's troubling is that you saw in this game the Lions trying to, the way I put it in the film review, was put a tourniquet on their hemorrhaging pass defense by putting another safety back there playing more too high, because usually they love playing one high. Playing more too high, and then they just get just crushed in the run game.
And we kind of discussed the coordinator stuff on the post game podcast. Basically, just the adjustments that may or not have been made. I do think one thing about Calvin Shepherd that we should know is like this is a defense that he largely inherited.
Absolutely.
And I do wonder, like, if he had his druthers, like, is this the style of defense that he would play? And I think if there's one thing that he should get credit for, because I was pretty critical of him, not just after the game, but also in my next day final drive column, was the fact that he does seem to be more flexible on a week-to-week basis than Aaron Glenn was.
They tried some other stuff.
The Lions played zone coverage at a season-high rate of 82.2% of snaps against Pittsburgh. It just didn't work. But again, you don't necessarily get credit for trying in the world of sports, but I do.
At least you tried.
I do give him a little bit of credit for that, at least.
This is an off-season topic, but I am curious if we're going to see, like, in his first full off-season, I guess this past off-season was kind of a full off-season as the DC, but now that he's got a season and has seen it, I'm curious if we see some, like, identity changes with this team, like, specifically on defense, like what they value.
Well, and, like, this is the style of defense that Dan Campbell clearly wants to run. Mm-hmm. And all of the personnel coming in like to this year from last year, none of it was swapped except for DJ Reed for Carlton Davis at cornerback. But for the most part, every other player who was like relevant on this defense last year is back on this defense. So
Tyreek and for Levi, like that's pretty,
right. Yeah, those are probably the only swaps. And then obviously you have the injuries on the back end that you didn't have last year, but
you started the season.
You started the season with those guys, so I think it kind of makes sense. And not only that, but the Lions defense before all those guys got hurt last season was one like historically good. Like the
for 10 weeks.
Yeah, for 10 weeks it was unbelievable. I don't think they allowed multi touchdown pass game until like week 13.
They didn't allow it. They didn't like there was. I think there was a stretch where they didn't allow a touchdown for 10 quarters.
Yeah,
at some point last year.
Yeah, like they were good before everybody got hurt, and so I think there was this idea, and I didn't even disagree with it at the time of like, oh, if you just
run it
back, like they'll just be that defense again, and they haven't really all season. I think they had some promising stretches at the beginning, but they were playing some weird offenses. They were playing, a Joe Burrow-less Bengals team. They were playing a Joe Flacco-led Cleveland Browns team. They were
a Bears team still finding their way.
They were playing the Ravens, and great game plan, 7 sacks. Still gave up 30 points in that game. So it never really got going. But they did have like a lot of like advanced statistics on their side of like, this is a good defense, trust me. And
then the explosive plays happened.
Yeah, and that's been a theme for the previous 4 games. We talked about it. Exactly half of the Lions' league-leading 54 explosive plays going into last week occurred in the previous 4 games. And then they allowed a bunch of, I don't know what the total was between the pass and run.
I don't know the pass.
3 45-yard touchdowns.
Including
one of them being
was
a
a
pass.
Yeah.
So I would imagine we can actually.
I know there was another one that on the 1st and 20 that Rodgers hits to Metcalf for 20 yards against Yassine. That was preceding the second 45
that was,
or maybe the first.
That
one
was,
of the 45.
I don't remember if we talked about this on the post-game podcast, but that was just so like predictably. That went exactly how you thought. It was like huge game or huge drive, need a stop. Like, let's see what they got. And then you get the penalty to start the drive, make it 1st and 20. Yeah. And, it just blows up.
5.
So they allowed 5
in this last game because they entered with 54.
5 passing plays of 20-plus yards.
Yeah. So they entered with 54. They now have 59.
So that is not even.
Actually, hold on. Sorry, I lied. I was looking at the wrong number. Oops.
So okay.
2.
Okay. So that's not horrible in the air.
Which is the 2 that we just mentioned: the 45-yard passing touchdown, and then the DK Metcalf.
I know there were more explosive runs, but I can't find.
7.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, there we go. Figured it out. Teamwork makes the dream work. So yeah, that's it for that game.
That's a wrap on that game.
Time to move on from.
Yeah, there's still a small chance, but
still alive.
Not a big chance.
If you didn't listen to the post game podcast or have been avoiding like Lions content in general, basically the situation is Lions have to win their last 2 games. Packers have to lose their last 2 games. It's not promising, obviously, but I think some of the developments have been maybe a little bit promising. Like, the Lions aren't going to have to play J.J. McCarthy this week, and depending on what you feel about J.J. McCarthy, maybe you do or don't think that's a bad thing, but he beat you last time, and he had them winning 3 in a row at the time of his injury.
He's like 500 as a starter.
Yeah.
I know he's had some duds.
Yeah, but now you get Max Brosmer, whose only career start was a 26-0 loss to the Seattle Seahawks. Lions obviously don't have the Seahawks defense, but I can't imagine that he's, if he lights it up or whatever, and if they have a good run game, like they can do some things. They got great receivers.
If they allow like a Browser-led offense to go for 30, like like
it's gonna be really bad.
Yeah.
The
Packers then have to play the Ravens without potentially both of their quarterbacks have been limited in practice this week. Jordan Love with the concussion, Malik Willis with the, admittedly I don't remember the injury, but I know he was limited today in practice. Their 3rd quarterback on the practice squad is Houston legend Clayton Tune.
Yeah. Who you've probably never heard of.
Yeah.
So you got that. And then the next week, it sounds so the Lions then have to go to Chicago. Chicago might not be playing for anything. Like, they might be playing for seeding. They also probably won't.
They could not be. Yeah.
Like, because they're going to win the division. And if one of those NFC West teams, well, they're 1 game away from clinching the division. So if they clinch the division this week against San Francisco, depending on what
they're not getting caught from behind.
Yes.
At this point. Yeah.
But they might still be in contention for the 1 seed going into that Week 18 game. So that could play a factor. I also, Ben Johnson comes from the Dan Campbell tree. I don't know if they would rest their starters if that game didn't mean anything for them.
No. I feel like they would.
I feel like they probably wouldn't either. But so you got that. That's the line side of things. And then in Week 18, the Packers have to play Minnesota. And for as good as I said that was for the Lions just a second ago, it might still be good for the Packers, but JJ might be back. So it's Kevin O'Connell basically saying today he has a hairline, like a very, very, very small. He stressed like a few times how small the hairline fracture was. He said the recovery is essentially the same as a bone bruise. He's going to be out this week, obviously short week, quick turnaround, but long, like mini bye coming off of this game, going into Week 18, could be ready to go against the Packers. And even with J.J. McCarthy playing his absolute best, like I still think it's a long shot that they win that game. But again, like Brian Flores, that defense can do some things to people, and they got a lot of talent over there on that Vikings team. Like a lot of good receivers, some good running backs.
All the models call it pretty much at this point like a between 6 and like 11% chance. That's probably pretty accurate. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's very not likely, but it's also not.
They're not dead yet.
It's not going to be, the most unlikely thing of all time, but it is definitely more likely than not that they're going to miss the playoffs.
Yes. Let's get to some news and notes. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he has a knee injury. He was estimated as a do not practice on Monday, was limited today on Tuesday. We'll see what his status is for the game probably on Wednesday. I would imagine they're going to make him questionable. If they were eliminated, maybe it's a different story, but since they do have a chance to still sneak into the playoffs, I would imagine that he's going to play. Campbell basically saying nothing that happened during the game that gave them concern. It was just he had a little irritation in his knee when he came in on Monday. They took a look at it. It's not something they're super concerned about, but it could impact his availability for this week.
He said short week. We'll see.
Yeah, but St. Brown is like the toughest guy on the team, one of them, and he just fought back to play against the Cowboys a few weeks ago on an ankle injury.
I was going to say,
it was awesome.
Without knowing anything about this knee injury, this past we saw him walking in the locker room today. We did not see him walking early in the week after his ankle injury where he was on crutches. So, I'm not going to say the ankle injury was worse because we don't know the severity of this knee injury. But if he was able to play through that ankle injury, I would bet he's going to play through this.
Well, and I guess one thing that we should know is the ankle injury was a 7-day break in between games.
Absolutely.
That obviously plays a little bit of a role. But I largely agree with the sentiment there. Graham Glasgow, he is still battling the knee injury that kept him out of last week's game. His status is up in the air for Thursday. I think he's been limited
he was full today.
Oh, full participant today. So that's a positive development for the health of that room. And then we have
that's all notable injury stuff, I guess, so to speak.
They have a lot of guys who are limited right now, I think, right? But that's just kind of the nature of a short week, and they're doing walkthroughs. They're not like going full go. So yeah.
Do you want to revisit this Isaac Tesla OPI?
I would love to.
Now that Tesla has talked about it, I think I have like more opinions.
Okay.
So I think after the game, I don't know. I'm still conflicted about it. I think
set the stage real quick. Basically, before the offensive pass interference call on Amon-Ra St. Brown on the final play of the game, the Lions actually took a lead previously with about 25 seconds left. Perfect play, throw to St. Brown in the near pylon to the right,
wide open,
and Tesla was called for offensive pass interference. The frustrating thing that I would imagine is eating people up inside is that St. Brown was so wide open that I don't really even know that he had to pick or get in anybody's way. Like, I think he would have gotten open no matter what, but he did, and it cost him the first go-ahead score. Pretty controversial because he looked like he was guided by one defender into the other, but he also did kind of put his shoulder down, which is a little bit of a giveaway to the action that you're trying to do. So what did you hear, though, when you talked to him in the locker room yesterday?
So he didn't want to speak like out of turn because he didn't want to get fined. But he, honestly, like a pro, got his point very clearly across without disparaging the refs.
Yeah.
And his point in less words than he had was, I don't think I committed offensive pass interference. The more words version of that is he said that he watched the replay and he feels like he did everything that he was told to do and did everything right. And he said, I ran my arms. He felt he did exactly what he was coached to do, and that he wouldn't change anything about what he did. And I'm a little conflicted on the play because, on one hand, that play, the act of setting a pick, like it happens every week, multiple times across the NFL. And it's called with such inconsistency. And you know me, like usually I'm like
Richard is Mr. Ref.
I'm like, I think reffing is a hard job, and I think people sometimes like.
Rich also thinks reffing is a cool job.
No, I don't. Yeah. No, I don't.
Yeah,
no, I don't. Ref, buddy. No, I don't.
Rich wants to be a ref.
No, I don't.
He can leave this all behind.
So, I think a lot of times people's anger is unjust. Like I think by the rule book that was the right call.
Most annoying guy ever.
For plays like this, there's such inconsistency in the manner that it's called, which is frustrating. But then also part of me says man, you run that play 1st and goal from the 1, you you know that call, like there's inconsistency there. Like you open the door for ref intervention when you call that play. That's one side of it. Do you want
not to mention the refs had already shown you that they would be willing to call it because they took a touchdown away from Pittsburgh earlier in the game for an offensive pass interference pick play. Now that one was a little more violent.
Yes.
DJ Reed, I did not think he was going to come back in that game.
Me neither.
He did. Yes. But it was a lot more cut and dry than the Tisla one for sure.
The opposite perspective of what I just said is, and kind of what Tesla said. I don't know what else he's supposed to do. Very clearly, it was a pick play. That was what the Lions were running. But let's say Tesla is just running a slant route on that play. He did the Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback on the outside, put his hands on his hips and ushered him into the Duggar. That was the safety, I believe. And Tesla bumped into him. What else is Tesla supposed to do on that play? Like he's also entitled to go try to run his route without being impeded by the defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really think it came down to just the shoulder. Like he was guided into Duggar for sure, but he also led a little bit with his shoulder. And I don't know, maybe you have to sell a little bit more of like, ooh, I'm just getting knocked around in here. But he was kind of, there was. I could see why somebody else would say that he's maybe doing the inflicting of the
for
contact.
Sure. So I will say, not a receivers coach, and maybe there's something flawed in the idea that I'm about to share. I think if I was designing a pick play, I would want my receiver to not, because Tesla is running like I said, like it was flatter, but kind of like a slant route, and he doesn't turn for the ball because. I'm sure he wasn't told to turn for the ball. I think if I was designing a pick play, I would want my guy to turn his entire body and show his hands to the quarterback, just like as an act, like to like pretend like I'm just trying to present the target to the quarterback, and you know what I mean? And if I get in the way, like that's his fault. Like I'm not leaning into you. Like I'm here trying to catch the pass.
Did you tell him that?
No. That didn't happen. Again, I don't blame Tesla. I don't blame Tesla for not doing it. Like Tesla did what he was coached to do.
When I was 7 years old, I had this dream. You won't know who this is. I had this dream that Dominic Hasek came to my house.
Okay.
And he was a Red Wings goalie, legend, Hall of Famer, all this other stuff. But he played a super unorthodox style where you kind of just like flop around, like you kind of just like get crazy. And I had a dream where I was telling him how to not be so crazy in the crease when those moments occur. Mm-hmm. And that's what.
For the record, I'm not telling Isaac what he should have done. Like I said, I think Isaac did what he was coached to do.
Yeah, you're just telling Scotty Montgomery.
No. I'm saying I wonder if that would have drawn a penalty had they done it.
And maybe he was on his way to doing that
before getting bumped.
Right. And getting knocked off his course.
I will say,
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Thank you. Before we move on, because we got one more thing and then we'll cut to an ad.
We actually have two more things.
One's
not on the prep sheet.
Oh, dear. He's throwing a curveball. Tesla, I thought, again, like I said, handled that situation like a pro, saying what he wanted to say without saying everything he wanted to say. And then also, he was talking about also eating him up was the play a few plays before that, where the ball, he climbs the ladder in the back of the end zone. The ball hits him in the hands, and he said he's watched the replay, and he's like, I don't understand how I didn't catch it. Like the catch that he had earlier in the game was more difficult, where it was between two defenders. He actually said that the ball was in the lights on that play, so he was like, I couldn't even see it. Like I just put my hands up, like and it found him.
Yeah.
This one, he got two hands on it, and he's like, I just don't understand how I didn't catch it. And another reporter, because at this point, like the interview was kind of winding down, and it was just talking, and then another reporter was like, yeah, I mean, like it's a high degree of difficulty, man. Like guys on your back, you're going way up. And he was like, yeah, but like that's why I'm here. Like and he's right. Like like maybe if that's like Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jameson Williams, it's a little bit more like, you know, that's a real tough play to make. But for credit
his style.
Yeah, credit to Tesla for saying like that's what I do. Yeah. Like I'm supposed to make that catch. Which like I think credit to him for saying that.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. We got to talk about Pro Bowl. We also got to talk about DK Metcalf suspended 2 games for the altercation that took place with the Lions fan on the sideline. Again, this was just one of those games where there was a billion things that happened, and like it was like, oh yeah, and also somebody got suspended 2 games, which in the NFL is a long time. Like, you know, you only play 17 games. Like a 1-game suspension kind of feels like the end of the world.
Yeah.
He says he's basically going to appeal, but I know that you wrote the story yesterday because there's been some back and forth. The fan who was involved has lawyered up and basically denied saying anything out of bounds, shall we say?
Sure.
Any derogatory. I believe he was accused of using some slurs.
Yeah. So DK has not spoken on this, to be clear. He has to anybody, like on the record, like to a reporter, I should say. There is Chad Johnson, who has the Nightcap podcast with former Chad Ochocinco, who has the Nightcap podcast with former Packers tight end Shannon Sharp, I'm thinking of Sterling Sharp, though, right? That played for the Packers. Shannon played for like the Broncos.
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah. So Ocho said on the podcast that he, quote, got word on the situation, and he shared that, according to someone that he spoke to, that the fan called DK the N-word and then called his mother the C-word. And that was the gist of what Ocho said. And then at the very end of the clip, he said, the reliable sports source that I talked to wears number 4. DK is number 4.
Yeah. So
seeming to imply that he spoke to DK. So that is where that's where the accusations stem from. And then yes, the fan lawyered up, and he put out a statement through the law firm. It was Head Murphy Law, basically saying I did not say anything.
No free ads.
Yeah, no free ads. Saying no, I did not say anything like that. And DK has been suspended 2 games, and he's appealing it. So we'll see.
All right, we're going to talk about Pro Bowl on the other side of this break, but first, a word from our sponsor.
For 44 years, Varsity Ford in Ann Arbor has been more than just a dealership. We're a family, proudly serving yours. As one of the top volume Ford dealers in the world, we're proof that when you treat people right, they come back, generation after generation. And now we make it easier than ever with complimentary pickup and delivery for both sales and service. So you can buy or service your Ford without leaving home. Varsity Ford. Driven by family, built on tradition.
All right, we're back. Final segment of the Gridiron Gang podcast here. Thanks so much for joining us. Do us a favor, if you haven't already, press that like button, press that subscribe button. If you're enjoying this podcast, you're going to want to know when new episodes come out, and you can do that by subscribing. Then when you wake up in the morning, it's just sitting in there waiting for you, like a nice present under the tree to be unwrapped and,
That's right.
and listened to. The Lions had 5 Pro Bowlers and an alternate, perhaps.
A few alternates.
Yeah. So Jack Campbell, first-time Pro Bowler. That was something that we expected. Like he's playing at an unbelievable level this season. Had 16 tackles in that game against Pittsburgh. 2 of them were on special teams. Also, I think led the team in pass defenses. Pass breakups. He had
2 pass breakups, 4 run stops. I mean,
yeah,
classic all over the place.
He was unbelievable.
Yeah. And he has been all season.
Yeah. Aiden Hutchinson, his 2nd Pro Bowl nod. Jameer Gibbs, 3rd Pro Bowl nod. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell both earning their 4th. And a few alternates as well.
Yeah, the alternates were, so Jared Goff is a first alternate for the NFC. I think the NFC quarterbacks were Stafford, Darnold, and Dak, I think. So Goff came in 4th place, I guess, if you want to talk for the NFC. Safeties, Brian Branch 1st and Kirby Joseph 5th. I would imagine probably a lot of the fan vote is carrying that, given that Kirby hasn't played in a long time. Jameson Williams was a 4th alternate, and tight end Sam Laporta is a 5th alternate. Again, the guys are hurt, so they're not going to play. And a lot of times, guys who aren't even hurt don't end up playing in the game. That's why there are so many alternates. But yeah, a bunch of guys got recognition. Jack Campbell, first Lions linebacker since Stephen Boyd in 2000.
Wow,
to be a Pro Bowler.
Wow.
Yeah.
The alternate thing is kind of weird because there can be so many Pro Bowlers in a given year, whereas All Pro is 1 or 2. There's no alternates
in the modern NFL. All Pro is the more prestigious honor at this point
because, like we just mentioned, a lot of this is fan voting. Which, not to say that fan voting is any fans' opinion is any less valid, but it's literally just about how active you are in social media, and it really comes down
to a retweet counts as a vote. And listen, anybody can have a Twitter.
And really, like a good social media team can get your guys into the Pro Bowl,
yeah.
which is what they should do. Right, like, absolutely. Yeah. But to the point about Kirby being 5th in Pro Bowl voting, despite the fact that he only played 6 games this season, that's that. But it's just weird that all the 3 quarterbacks, right? Let's say Jared Goff's the 5th alternate.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 quarterbacks, they're Pro Bowlers, cut and dry, even if they don't play in the game. So the 3rd alternate, if he says no, does he still get credit for being a Pro Bowler? Or is it like Jared Goff jumps the line, and now there are 4 QB Pro Bowlers?
I don't know. That's a good question. I know, I know.
Well, if there's a wholesale change, all 3 quarterbacks don't play, then there's 6.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm be honest. I don't know how that.
That's
all works.
half the conference, or 40% of the conference.
It's a good question. I mean, I think Jared definitely has a good argument for being in over. I don't know. It's definitely not Stafford. Yeah. So it's either
maybe Dak or Darnold for sure.
Yeah,
I think he's probably right there with those guys.
Statistically he is there or better than them. And then I think there's something to be said for the amount of change that's happened and the amount of clunkiness that's happened on this offense. I think this last game is a good example of. Really didn't have a defense for a lot of the game, and he didn't have a run game for the entire game. And I know a lot of his numbers came in the 4th quarter, but man, if they weren't close, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about the Vikings real quick before we get out of here. Quick look at the lines. Lions are -7. Over under is 43.5. That's an implied score of 25. What the heck? Basically 25-18.
Yeah.
He's got decimals in here. It's not how the scores work, buddy.
That's how over-under works.
Quick look at the Vikings offensive rankings. They are 26th in points per game, 28th in yards per game, 24th in rushing, 28th in passing, 31st on third down, 17th in red zone, 32nd in turnovers. So they're bad at everything. I believe when we talked about this game before week 9, I repeatedly called them the stinky Minnesota Vikings. That was a little ambitious. They have gotten better over the course of the season. J.J. McCarthy has his team clicking a little bit. Of course, the one thing about that is that J.J. McCarthy will not be playing on this Thursday, but maybe that will still, the good vibes that they've kind of generated over these last 3 games will do something, because that was something that was the reason why I had such little faith that the Vikings could win that game in the first place. I think they were coming from an overseas game where they lost 35-0 or something it was bad. There was no way that anybody could have predicted that they were going to come into Ford Field and do what they did on that day. But like I said, they still got a ton of weapons as pass catchers. They got a pretty decent offensive line. What's the health situation looking like with their offensive line?
I know Ryan Kelly's out, the starting center, because I think he's had his 3rd concussion this season, which is
Darius,
which is terrifying. I'm not 100% sure what the injury report looks like for them.
Go ahead and get us. So they shut down Christian Darisaw for the rest of the season. Their premier left tackle.
And then their starting center is also
their starting center. So they are pretty banged up. The Lions should have opportunities to take advantage of these guys in some capacity, but that is not something that you can count on these days. So
the Steelers were also missing their starting left tackle, and we're down to their 3rd or 2nd or whatever guard, left guard. The Steelers also had problems.
And can I say, and to be fair, the Steelers aren't generally a good offensive team. They had a good offensive day, but that's not typically what it looks like. But I'd have to imagine that it's pretty frustrating as a Lions fan to watch that game and be like, look what they're doing with these guys and what the Lions are doing with their one backup out there.
Kingsley.
No doubt. Yeah. First-time starter at center, going to be a whole big problem.
And a hobbled mahogany.
But, I mean,
it wasn't good.
Yeah, I can't even throw that hobbled in there because to quote Calvin Shepard, if you're hurt, come out the game. They have guys that were able to play in that game. They didn't. And you saw what happened out there.
This Vikings offense, 29 turnovers is
absurd.
Bananas.
And that's, the Lions should have opportunities to take the ball away. That's something that's something that has been super inconsistent this season. Part of that is missing Kirby Joseph. You're kind of interception machine. But Max Brosmer does have a touchdown to interception ratio of 0-4. So
21 of those 29 turnovers have been interceptions. The others fumbles. So maybe also an opportunity. We've seen Jack Campbell and Amik Robertson specifically be adept at getting the ball out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Punching the ball out. So maybe there's some opportunity there.
Now, the other thing I will say is that Nick Mullins threw 4 interceptions to the Lions in Minnesota in 2023, and they almost still won that game. So anything is possible.
Because it's Nick Mullins.
Because, yeah. Let's talk about this Brian Flores defense, because this is what really gave the Lions a bunch of trouble the last time they played. The offense, they scored the points, right? Like, they scored 27 points.
Yeah.
The Lions special teams unit had its worst day of the season, like far and away. They were just getting crushed on returns.
Campbell said it was the team from offense, defense, special teams was the team's worst day.
Yeah. And I think that was especially true on special teams. They had the blocked field goal, which would have made a difference in the final score. They had, like I said, the returns that were just giving these guys a bunch of short fields. There were multiple, I think, scoring drives that started inside of or in plus territory. Mm-hmm. So not good at all. And then specifically the Vikings and Brian Flores' kind of exotic blitzes really ate the Lions up. And that was something that we wondered how it would go without Frank Ragnow, because over the last 2 seasons since 2.5, whatever you want to call it at this point, seasons that Flores has been in Minnesota playing the Lions, he has given them a ton of problems. And that was with Frank Ragnow. That was with kind of that formidable unit that we had come to know as a stalwart. And they didn't have those guys last time. They had Graham Glasgow. They had Christian Mahogany, who actually ended up breaking his fibula in that game. But they just did not handle it well. And Jahmyr Gibbs was kind of hung out to dry. He had allowed a career high 7 pressures. And I got the sense after that game that that was obviously the last game that John Morton called plays. And I really feel like just the way that they took advantage of Jahmyr Gibbs in pass protection was, this is all speculation, probably the final straw for Campbell to be like, all right, give me the sticks, let me get on real quick. Because it was really bad. So that's kind of the main storyline that I think we're watching going into this game, or at least things that we're watching on the field, keys to victory, whatever you want to call them, is how do the Lions answer after getting whooped in week 9.
And I think what's important against the Flores defense as well, and Campbell mentioned this, is adjusting on the fly, because you can adjust to what happened last time, but the guy's gonna have more, to give you. And I think that's what made Ragnow so valuable, is that live on the field, you could he was changing things on the field versus, and that's, you're losing some of that. So you can adjust for what happened last time. You can bet he's going to have 1, 2, 3 things up his sleeve that are different from last time as well.
I don't remember exactly what I asked Campbell today.
You said, what do you have to be prepared for?
Yeah. Just
against the Flores defense.
This is Dan Campbell's first time calling plays against the Flores defense, and just what are the different things you're thinking about going into this game is basically what I asked him, and he's just like, well, there's everything, and then once you take care of that, there's also everything, and then also you have to be aware of everything. So
in the last one, he goes, and then almost everything.
Yeah. So he's fully aware of the challenge that is ahead of him. The Lions offense, after the performance that they had in week 9, fully aware of the challenge ahead of them. And I'm, intrigued to see how they answer it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Defense. We've been talking about it. Let's run through these stats real quick. They are 12th in points per game, 5th in yards per game, 24th in rushing, 3rd in passing defense, 5th and 3rd down, 1st in red zone, 22nd in turnover. So they're really good in those high leverage situations. And I think the Lions have kind of struggled against opponents who have come in with that. I think that was a thing that the Steelers were had under their belts, perhaps.
Yes. Yeah, they're really good in the red zone and defense.
So we'll see how they answer those 2 things as well, or operate in those high leverage spots.
Yeah, no, I think high leverage spots feels like where they're, again, season's not over yet. It definitely does feel like a little bit of an Achilles heel for this Lions team this year.
Yeah. Which, on the one hand, I know fans don't want to think like this. They were so good at that last year. And it's just they were probably due for some regression.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that some of that kind of happened organically. It's just the way of the world. You look at the Chiefs last year, they start 11-0. They're 10-0 in 1-score games or whatever it was throughout the course of the season. This year they come out and things regress to the mean, and all of a sudden they're 1-6 in 1-score games or whatever they ended up being.
That's the weird thing. Sometimes I think about football. I'm like, I don't know. Is it all just luck? Like at the end of like, you know what? Obviously, you have to be good. Like, but if you're a good team, I'm like, is it just luck? Like at the end of the day, like, but then again, like you get a team like the Chiefs that goes to whatever it is, 4 Super Bowls in 5 years and wins 3 of them or 2, 3. Yeah, they didn't 3-peat, but they won 3 in like a 5-year stretch. I'm like, man, is it just luck? But then you get a team like that, and it's like, well, no, there's definitely a science to it. Like,
I think a lot of times it's a confidence thing. Like, do you think you're going to convert this? Yes or no?
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times when you have that time on that, you have that experience of like, oh, we always convert these. We're just going to go convert again. I do think that kind of matters. But that's another like you see turnovers. Like coaches can talk about, oh, this defense practices it. You know, all this other stuff. At the end of the day, like turnovers are a volatile stat, and if you are super good,
the best defenses every year have the most turnovers.
Yeah,
just end of story, pretty much.
Yeah, and but at the same time, a lot of people say you got to get turnovers to have a good defense. So
yeah,
you know, it's a little chicken or the egg situation.
Right.
Let's get into some NFC North picks. Lions -7 against the Vikings. I'm going to go with the Lions. Obviously, had a lot of confidence that they were going to cover 6.5 or whatever it was against the Steelers last week. That did not come to fruition. But you're going against Max Brosmer. You're going on the road. My hypothesis is that when teams play these holiday games, like the Lions on Thanksgiving, I do think these games are a little bit more difficult for the home team because they got their family in town. They're thinking about what they got to do after work. You know, I gotta go over here. You know, whatever. I do think that these are a little bit more of a drain on the home team. Whereas if you're on the road, you're like, whatever. It's a business trip. We're going out of town. Then we'll deal with all that other stuff when we get back. So I do think that will be part of this as well.
I also went with the Lions just for the fact of like, I mean.
The
one time we saw Brosmer, man, it wasn't good. Like you said, 26-0, and this isn't the Seahawks defense, but man, like it's got to be in the middle. Like you know what I mean? Like come on. So I'm gonna pick the Lions to win by more than 7. I'm obviously the Lions to win by outright, and then I'm picking them to win by more than 7. If they don't, obviously the season's over. But also like it's over in a way that it's like, oh my god, like it. We thought this week was rock bottom. That would be rock bottom.
Yeah. Packers -2.5 against the Ravens. I can't say I'm going to go with the Ravens. I don't like the quarterback situation right now. If Malik Willis plays, like I think the Packers, I would be more like 50-50 on this game. But without knowing if he's going to play or not, I don't think Jordan Love is going to play. I don't know. We'll see. But
we just don't know.
I mean, he was very concussed. And like, guys don't really come back from that in a week. Like sometimes they do, but I think it's less common than
it used to be.
Yeah, sure.
I went with the Packers just because I think one of those quarterbacks is going to play on betting on the fact that one of them is going to check enough boxes throughout the week.
And then lastly, here we got Bears +3 at the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. I'm going with the 49ers. Maybe it's recency bias. I watched them in that game last night. And again, going against Phillip Rivers, you know, they allowed like 27 points or something like that. But that offense is unbelievable. I think they're going to be able to light up the Bears defense. It's not, you know, it's a Bears defense that I think has maybe gotten better as the season's gone on, but still is not like a great unit like their offense is. Mm-hmm. And so I think they'll be able to hang and probably beat them at home.
I'll take the Bears to go on the road and clinch the division here. Plus I get 3 points. So they could lose by a couple and I still win. At this point in the season, I think I just believe in the Bears more than I do the 49ers. And that's like not as much of a slight it's not as much a slight towards the 49ers as it is a compliment of the Bears.
Blind ranking. Let's end the show here.
Let's do it. All right.
Real quick. Not real quick. We're going to take our time here. It's a holiday season.
So I'll give you 5 names.
Okay.
This game is being played on Christmas, as we all know.
Yep.
I need you to blind rank Santa's reindeer. And I want you to evaluate these guys like they're athletes. Okay. And I have, from a website here, a little description of each reindeer and what they do well. And why they're special.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you the name and then give you a little description.
Okay. All right. I like it.
Your first name is Dasher. Dasher gets his name because he's the fastest reindeer of the pack.
Yeah.
He used to be the lead reindeer, but then he was Wally pipped by Rudolph. That's your little TLDR on Dasher. real fast guy, used to be the man, not the man anymore. Where are you putting him 1 through 5?
I'm gonna put him number 2. You know, I can't have him take that one spot off the jump because obviously he was replaced in the lineup by Rudolph. But with a name like Dasher, like in my mind, I'm thinking Tyreek Hill, I'm thinking Jamison Williams, I'm thinking Xavier Worthy, I'm thinking guys that like can get off the snow and get into the air like quickly. And you know, a lot of times when they're going to these houses, like there's a lot of houses in the world, you know, and so you know it's all about getting to that next house mentality, and Dasher's gonna help help that come to fruition.
Your next reindeer is Prancer. So Prancer, he's graceful, majestic, according to this website that I'm reading.
Like Lynn Swan.
Yeah, this is sno.co.uk, so a reliable source of these reindeer. Description of these reindeer. Anyway, Prancer, majestic, but also, as the site puts it, he knows it. Like, you know what I mean? He's
savvy.
He's a little. I think maybe a little diva, if we're being honest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like he's definitely some baggage. I'll say that, but you can't deny the skill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So 1 through 5, where are you putting Prancer?
I'll put Prancer at 3. I do think a good diva wide receiver, a good diva reindeer is something that really kind of brings a locker room of reindeer together. You know, you'd obviously all like them to buy into the culture and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, if Prancer doesn't want the dang ball, that's actually a problem. Like I would be more upset if he didn't want to hop in that sleigh.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go 3.
Fair enough. So you got 1, 4, and 5 open. I suspect I know you're keeping 1 open.
I don't like the gap that I've created.
Sure.
I hate when it goes like this. I probably should have put Prancer at 4.
Okay.
Can I still put Prancer at 4?
No,
or is it too
I'm
late?
sorry, you locked.
Okay, thank you. That's fine.
Your next reindeer, your third reindeer here is Blitzen. Blitzen,
Man.
I think maybe I would describe Blitzen like a little like a dog. Like he is he doesn't back down from a challenge. Like he is eye to eye with anybody who wants to challenge him.
See, this is the problem because I would want to put Blitzer at 3. You know,
Blitzen.
Especially when we're talking about the Brian Flores defense. Like this is like your Andrew Van Ginkel type, where he can do a little bit of everything, but if he's coming off the edge unblocked,
it's scary.
It's very scary. If you don't identify where he is in the sleigh lineup before each and every trip, like you're gonna get run over.
Yeah,
like grandma.
So 1, 4, 5. Where are you putting Blitzen?
I'm putting him at 4. I mean, it's just I love the name Blitzen. You know, it's just it's like Dick LeBeau, it's Brian Flores, it's Vic Fangio. Like that's kind of the name. Like those classic like defensive coordinator names that just like make you feel something. Mm-hmm. That's kind of Blitzen for me.
Second to last reindeer you're gonna get is Dancer, who is actually Prancer's twin.
Okay.
So the little sit rep on Dancer is very kind of like a lot of the same things like Prancer, like light on their feet, very good, but much less of a diva, and honestly like has turned down bigger opportunities elsewhere to stay. Like it really, yeah, like has had the opportunity for maybe a little bit more money, but they value like their legacy here.
It's like a T. Higgins.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like the 1B to the 1A.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe doesn't get as much shine, but is still cool with that. You know, like their contracts are both up at the same time. And it's like, you know what? My boy Prancer is going to make a little bit more money than me, but that's okay. Like, I understand it's a role you got to play, and I'm cool with that. I mean, shoot, I wish I had more spots open, towards the top, but unfortunately I don't, and so I'm going to have to put Dancer at 5, leaving it open for who I believe to be the GOAT. I guess we'll find out in a second, but we've got Dasher 2, Prancer 3, Blitzen 4. That was a mistake. Honestly, in hindsight, I wish I would have put Blitzen 1, but Dancer is 5.
I think you did the right thing keeping the 1 spot open. I can't do this list without Rudolph. The guy. Like, I mean, like, come on. Like, the face of the league. Like, if we're being honest. The guy that, when you think Santa is reindeer, like, that's the guy you think.
He's Pat Mahomes. I mean, you think about what that Chiefs team was with Alex Smith for so many years. They were getting to the playoffs, and then they kept losing. He's the Joe Burrow to Cincinnati's Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer just at it for so many years, couldn't get over the hump and win a playoff game. Joe Burrow comes in, years later down the road, and immediately things kind of start turning around. This is your generational prospect type of guy. And when you insert him into the lineup, he just changes the math on everything, right? Like, where you're able to go. You go to some certain places there aren't a lot of street lights, or maybe the population density isn't as high. You go out and you're in more of a rural environment. It can be difficult to see at times. Yeah. The stars are out. There's not as much light pollution. You need a guy who's going to be able to get you from point A to point B. All these other reindeer, they obviously bring something really big and unique to the table. But I mean, it's Rudolph.
It starts and stops with him.
Absolutely, he's the straw that stirs the drink.
I mean, like the old saying goes, like in that 2016 divisional loss that the Chiefs had to the Steelers, like Andy Reid heads into that draft and he tells Patrick Mahomes, like, it's a foggy night, and he said, like, come lead this team, and he did, just
Absolutely.
Like Rudolph,
and it was instant, right? Yeah. Like the Pat Mahomes comes in, they don't win the Super Bowl the first year, but they get to the AFC Championship game. They're on the cusp of a Super Bowl. They're a D Ford offsides away from getting there for the first time in a long time. But a guy that instantly changes not just that season, but every Christmas after that. Just completely changes what you're able to do. So
you always got a chance with that guy leading the way.
Absolutely. How'd I do?
I think you did great.
Okay, cool. I still have regrets about where I put Blitzen. I might have, but I don't know, Dasher. It's in
the thing is with Blitzen is like the leader of your defense. So you know what I mean? Where it's like it starts and stops with him on defense. So yeah, I don't know. I think you did good.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right, that will do it for this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Merry Christmas to you all.
To all a good night.
And to all a good night. Happy New Year, but we'll talk to you before then. So I think just for some housekeeping, basically the way that we're going to do the podcast over these next 2 weeks is we're going to do our regular post-game podcast after the game on Thursday, and then we're going to be off from the podcast until next Wednesday, going into week 18. But in the meantime, we'll have a ton of content. DetroitNews.com. Rich's film review is up. If you are interested in learning a little bit more, this is, probably not interested in learning a little bit more about what went wrong. But if you'd like to see it for yourself, definitely go check that out. Rich puts a lot of work into it, and he does a fantastic job. So anything else that you wanted to share, plug, anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Everybody be good. Hope you ended up on the nice list. And
he didn't.
We'll talk to you later. That's not true. I'm always on the nice list.